Alright, this is going to be just a short tutorial video on how to factor trinomials. This is the method that I prefer to use to factor a trinomial. Your Algebra 1 teachers may have taught you something different, but I find that this is easier to kind of think about and specifically to check your answers before you write down your final answer. So when I factor a trinomial, the first thing I do is I look at the trinomial. We're just going to look at the basic one. The basic form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Is I take that and I'm going to make an x with it. When I make the x, I'm going to take whatever a is and whatever c is and multiply them together, and that goes in the top of my x. And then whatever b is, the middle number, b goes on the bottom, it goes down there. So then what we're looking for is whatever number's on top is going to be your multiplying number. It's what you're trying to multiply the two numbers. When you multiply the two numbers, you're trying to get that number. And then the bottom number is going to be your adding number. And you're trying to find two numbers on either side of the x that will multiply the top number but add to the bottom number. So let's look at some examples. So in number 1 here, I would make my x. And then for all the examples today, a is going to be 1. So 1 times 30 just stays 30. And then 11 is going to go on the bottom because that's b. And then what you want to think of, your focus is thinking of things that you know that multiply to 30. So I know 1 times 30. I know 2 times 15. You're trying to find the ones that add to 11. 3 times 10, still not there. 6 times 5. That one's what's going to work. So 6 and 5 go here. Sometimes you're going to think about them right away. You write them down, just double check. Make sure when you multiply them, 6 times 5 is 30, and when you add them, 6 plus 5 is 11. So that is your answer. And we write that into two separate factors with an x in them. So your answer would be x plus 6 times x plus 15, because what happens here is that if I were really to FOIL this back together, I'm going to get x squared plus 5x plus 6x plus 30. And when I put my middle back together, I get x squared plus 11x plus 30. So you don't have to show the check. I'm just showing you that that really does work. This right here is enough for your final answer on your Algebra Review page. So let's look at a few more, because once we add negative signs in, it gets a little bit more complicated. So here are some with some negative signs. So again, the first step I do is I make the x and I put the numbers in the right spot. Again, a is still 1, so 1 times 36. 36 goes on top. Negative 13 goes on the bottom. So when you look at this, you should again be looking at that top number and thinking of factors of that top number. First factors of 36 that pop in my head are 9 and 4. So if you kind of go with the common ones first, and then if those don't work, divide it by 2, divide it by 3, divide it by 4. So 9 and 4 make positive 13 when I add them together, which is great, but I need negative 13. So in order to make that happen, I actually need to make both of these negative. And then if we just double check, negative 9 times negative 4 will give me a positive 36, because two negatives multiplied together give me a positive. But when I add them, I get negative 13. So that's all that's going to happen when the bottom's negative and the top is still positive, is you're just going to get two negative answers. So x minus 9 times x minus 4 is my answer. Let's look at number 3. Top number this time is going to be negative 40, and the bottom number is negative 6. So when the top number is negative, what you have to be careful about is you want to think of subtracting the two numbers as you come up with them. So factors of 40, we've got 1 and 40, we've got 2 and 20. If it helps to write them all out, write them all out. That when I subtract those, now I'm thinking subtraction because it's negative, I don't get 6 yet. 3 doesn't go into it. 4 times 10. Oh, there it is, 4 and 10. When I subtract, I get 6. So then we're going to put 4 and 10 down. What you have to think about now is which one you're going to make negative. Only one is negative to multiply to negative 40. But specifically look at this bottom number. If I want negative 6, the 10 has to be negative. So when I add them, I get negative 6. And double check, 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. 4 plus negative 10 is negative 6. So those are your answers. So we write that as x plus 4. And then for the negative 10, we write it as x minus 10. And again, if we were to FOIL that together, it's going to go back to the trinomial that we had. We're just trying to break it down into two binomials instead. Factoring is pretty important for future math classes. All right, the last one, we're going to put in negative 21 and positive 4. This one's going to be a little bit easier because there aren't a lot of things that go into 21. Again, it's negative on the top, so you want to think subtract when you're looking at your numbers. So 1 and 21, and then the only other factors I know are 3 and 7. Those, when I subtract them, I get 4, so that's really good. Now when we write them in, we just got to figure out which one we're going to make negative. So we get negative 21 when we multiply, but we want positive 4 when we add them. So if I want positive 4, I'm actually making the smaller one negative so that it stays a positive number. So my answer is going to be x minus 3 times x plus 7. If you have any questions, please see me, and good luck on your algebra review.